hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Future in Finance CeMAP Study Guide series. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Maria.
And every week-ish or so, we get together and we help you guys out with your CeMAP studies. I'm going to guess that this is not your first time here. If it is, it's a very weird episode for you to come in on, and I'd recommend that you start with episode 1. But basically what we do every week is we look at one chapter of one of the London Institute of Banking and Finance's study texts, and we help dumb it down a little bit to get you through your CeMAP studies. That's it. That is the premise of everything that this podcast is about. The super quick backstory is I couldn't get CeMAP qualified. I found it really difficult. I had a bit of a bitch and a moan after doing a fast track course, and then decided to quit my job and dedicate my entire career to it and skip forward 18 months. This is what I do. I help you guys every single day get CeMAP qualified. And Maria's just really along for the ride.
Yeah, I'm just here for the crack.
Maria is my best friend. She's also more affectionately known as the money muggle in certain circles. And what she helps me do is she asks the relevant questions around the more complicated topics, because now I do this full time, and sometimes I forget that not everybody knows what the Mortgage Conduct of Business Sourcebook is. So yeah, Maria.
Yeah, I'm here to be like, hang on a second. Us mere mortals do not understand the lingo, the jargon, the fancy words. So I'm just here to ask the sensible questions that you guys are probably going to ask when you start studying.
Exactly that. So every week we get together. In this particular episode, we are going to be looking at your CeMAP 2 and 3 textbook, and we're going to be looking at topic 3, which is called mortgage regulation. There's absolutely no way I could make that sound exciting, and actually there's very little ways of me making most of the context of this sound exciting.
We'll figure it out.
But what I can do is I can at least make it understandable, which is something that the textbook sometimes fails to do. If you don't already follow me on Instagram or on TikTok, just search Future in Finance pretty much anywhere these days, or go to futureinfinance.co.uk. Please give this podcast a like. Please give it a subscribe. The more that you guys can do that kind of stuff, which doesn't cost you anything, actually it means we can get money to put into better ideas. For example, we're currently working on a separate project to do with being able to offer you one space to go to find jobs once you get your CeMAP qualification. One of the biggest kind of barriers for me is I can help you guys get CeMAP qualified, but after that it's like a good luck, God bless, let me know how it goes out there, and that's always been something I've wanted to work on. Now I am working on it to be able to provide you guys with the next steps. And you guys subscribing to this podcast helps me do that. And it also helps Maria help me do that too. So please hit the subscribe button if you're listening to this anywhere. Hit the like button and give us a cheeky 5 stars if you want to. You can leave us a review as well. But if it's a 1-star review, then please don't do that.
Don't do that, because I'll find you. And I'm really good at that. And I'll take it personally.
That is Maria's superpower. She'll find strangers on the internet. So if anybody needs help with that, you can go to the other website.
No, we've not set that one up yet.
But I think we just jump straight in after we've done the classic.
Cue intro music.
Welcome back. So topic 3, or chapter 3 of your CeMAP 2 and 3 studies, is all to do with regulation. It is a bit of a slog, but the saving grace that we have is a lot of it is a revisit from CeMAP 1. So I'm going to strip things right back, probably even further back than the textbook does, and says we have financial services. They exist. We have banks, we have mortgage companies, we have insurance companies. They're all different types of financial services. They all have rules that they have to follow.
Yeah.
Those rules come from government. So
right.
They used to come from the European Union and the big bods that sat around that big circular table that you see in films. They'll have a flag on the table.
Oh, like the King Arthur, like the Knights of the Round Table.
Exactly like the Knights of the Round Table. So it used to start at the EU, and then that Brexit thing happened.
That which shall not be named, yes.
And now we say we don't follow the EU laws. We exactly follow the EU laws. It's just
we just call them ours.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good. Right, excellent.
So the EU used to be top of the chain. Now it's our government, so what happens is they'll discuss something in Parliament, they will vote on it. It might be a really big change to financial services, like what can we do to further support first-time buyers? Or, hey, shall we instigate interest-only mortgage breaks for all these people that can't afford their mortgages currently? That's something that's happening at the minute. So it starts with government. Where does it go from there? Can you take a guess?
To the bank.
It does eventually go to the banks.
Oh, I knew I was going to get this wrong.
The next step in the chain is the regulators, so the Financial Conduct Authority.
Oh, right, the guys above the bank.
Exactly.
Got it.
So in the chain of who is top of the pecking order, we've got government first, then we've got the regulators. So in our instance, it would be the Financial Conduct Authority, which is the FCA.
Yep.
We also have the PRA, but for CeMAP 2 and 3, we can just forget about that, so I'm not going to talk about that. Then it gets fed down to the banks or the insurance companies or the mortgage companies, whoever it is.
Yep.
So that's the chain of command. And what happens is, for every single different type of financial services, they have to write a playbook to say this is how it should operate in accordance with the laws.
Got it.
It's like the Bible. It's probably a poor example. I always use the Harry Potter books as examples. It's like the original go-to if you want to learn about the magical world of witchcraft.
Craft and wizardry!
If you want to hear about the magical world of witchcraft and wizardry, you go to Harry Potter. You go to the first one, that's the starting point.
Okay.
So there's one for mortgages, there's one for insurance, there's one for banking, and they're called the source books.
Right.
Like the sorcery books.
Okay, got it.
So for mortgages specifically, we have the Mortgage Conduct of Business source book.
Yeah.
For what we need to know, if you can hear a dog scratching in the background, guys, I'm so sorry about this. Fox, no, come on. We've changed up our recording space because it's really nice sunshine, and we thought, no, it'll be fine. Everyone will be fine. Everyone is in fact not fine. So the Mortgage Conduct of Business source book is like the first Harry Potter installment.
Yeah.
It's the place to go to for mortgages. And every so often we get something called a directive. So you might remember this from CeMAP 1, where I was like, there's a mortgage credit directive, there's an insurance conduct of business investment directive, there's loads of different things.
Yeah.
The directives are add-on bits of literature. So if we link that back to Harry Potter...
So it's like the fucking magical creatures, all the like...
Mystical beasts and where to find them.
One of us has read the books.
There we go. That's exactly it. So a directive is an add-on bit of literature. It links back to the OG stuff.
So we've got the canon, and then we've just got like the add-on bits afterwards to inform them further.
Not everybody knows what the canon is, though. We did a degree together, and when you said it, I was like, I'm not sure what that is. So.
Well, no, canon is common. Okay, let us know in the comments if you understand what canon is, because it's common in like when people write fan fiction and shit, isn't it? Well, people go, it's canon, and that's the stuff that people like. So I don't know if anyone watched Supernatural or anything like that, or even Grey's Anatomy. That's a really mainstream one. Canon is what happened in the TV show.
Like Gilmore Girls fan fiction.
Yeah. So canon is what's happened in the TV show. The writers, the OG writers wrote it. And then fan fiction is the stuff that's happened outside of canon.
Cool. So whatever...
however you remember it.
Whatever you're into, in the least kinky way, whatever you're into... You have the original stuff as the conduct of business source books, whether it's mortgages, insurance, banking, and then you have the directives, which are add-on bits of literature. So what we need to know about for CeMAP 2 and 3 is the Mortgage Conduct of Business source book, also known as MCOBS.
Easy to remember.
Is our OG. It's the original piece of literature. It basically set the framework for how mortgages should work forever.
Okay.
On the 21st of March 2016...
Do you need to know this date for the exam?
You absolutely definitely do.
Write it down, stick it on a post-it note, put it on your toilet door.
Also, the summer solstice, apparently. The 21st of March... No, wait. Equinox. It's the equinox. We were talking about the summer solstice
Every witch is cringing now.
We went on a dog walk before we recorded this and you said solstice.
Oh, I was talking about the summer solstice. Yeah.
So, scratch that. It's the equinox. The Spring equinox? That feels familiar. I'm going to edit this bit out. 21st of March 2016 is the date we need to remember. On that date, the Mortgage Credit Directive came into play. So it was an extra piece of literature to do with mortgages, and it really shook the mortgage world up because it changed a lot.
Right.
And the biggest thing that it changed is affordability. So we've spoken about this in another podcast because I'm getting flashbacks to be like, have we already recorded this episode? Have I ballsed this up?
Deja vus.
Yeah, I've got deja vu, but it's not. It's from CeMAP 1, and we do need to revisit it in CeMAP 2 and 3. So on that date, which is
Spring equinox,
the 21st of March 2016, the Mortgage Credit Directive came out, and it said, we're going to completely reshape how we do mortgages, especially how we assess people's affordability. So we know now, roughly speaking, you times somebody's income by 4, that's roughly how much of a mortgage they can get.
Okay.
That is not a regulatory standard. That's just how the markets work right now. So if you ever get a question on affordability calculations, they're never going to do it as an expectation of let's times their annual salary by 4, because that's not how the regulators do it. Usually they will say a loan can be no more than a certain percentage of somebody's income.
Right.
So in CeMAP 2, you don't get any calculation questions, but in CeMAP 3, you're going to get a few. So what they'll do is they'll say, this is Jeff's circumstances, this is how much Jeff spends per month, what is the maximum loan amount that Jeff could have? And in that information, it will tell you all about the particular lender he wants to go with and what their maximum loan amount would be.
Oh, these are all the lovely scenario questions.
Exactly. So at that point, you're going to go, okay, what is Jeff's money after all of his bills have come out?
Mm-hmm.
And if that lender will say it can be no more than 70% of his disposable income, you then need to be able to work out what 70% is. Fun fact, when I sat my CeMAP 3 exam, I didn't know how to work out percentages, so I couldn't do any of those questions because I didn't know, and I still don't know, on a calculator, how do you work out what 80% of 1002 is?
Okay, so I want to mock you, but I'm exactly the same because I failed GCSE and A-level maths. There is a wake of disappointed maths teachers and tutors in
both of our pasts.
Both of our pasts. But if you just Google it.
Yeah, Google it, guys. Please just remember to go into your CeMAP 3 exam, not your CeMAP 2 exam, your CeMAP 3 exam, knowing how to work out percentages. The other two calculations that you need for your CeMAP 3 exam is knowing how to work out what somebody's interest payments or mortgage repayments will be. So, really common exam question is, Jeff has been offered a mortgage of £240,000 at an interest rate of 6.5% as an interest-only mortgage product.
Right.
What will his monthly repayments be?
Obscene, mate.
Yes. For those of you guys who are listening, I have a handout that you can access for free. It's in the e-learning platform, how to calculate interest payments. It's actually a lot more straightforward than you think. And if I can teach it, anyone can learn it, because genuinely my maths has always been terrible. Go and check that out. But to loop back around, that's the Mortgage Credit Directive. It's a new bit of legislation that came into play. The problem that we have with the Mortgage Credit Directive is because the affordability criteria changed so much.
Yeah.
A lot of people who did previously have mortgages now can't afford to remortgage their houses because the affordability stuff has changed. They're known as mortgage prisoners. We talk a lot about mortgage prisoners, actually.
Yeah, we did.
We do it in CeMAP 1 and then we revisit in CeMAP 2 and 3.
Yeah.
That's what a mortgage prisoner is. Oh, another really important thing that we need to know about for this particular topic is something called a back book loan. Sounds dirty.
Sounds really dirty.
Yeah, it's not. So, do you remember, have we spoken about second charge mortgages before? We have.
Yes, we definitely have. The Tesla mortgage.
Yeah, okay. So, just to recap, in case you guys are not up to date with these episodes, a first charge mortgage is the mortgage that most of us will have if you have one. You secure your property against the debt, and if you do not keep up with your mortgage repayments, your home may be repossessed.
Yep.
Mortgages can be well expensive if you need to make a change to them. So if you move house and you don't have what's called a portability option, or if you need to borrow more money because you've got loads of equity in the property and you've decided you want to get married, it can also be really expensive to come out of your current agreement.
Yep.
Sometimes, if you want to do something like that, it's actually cheaper to get a second mortgage than it is to come out of your agreement early.
Right.
Because sometimes early exit fees for mortgages can be thousands of pounds.
Whoosh.
And people don't think about it because it's not like they're paying it up front, but actually it gets added into your debt. You pay interest on that debt. It's a problem.
Yeah.
So sometimes people get a second mortgage. It's called a second charge mortgage. And the reason that it's called a second charge is because they go second on the list with the land charges registry for dibs on the house.
Right, okay, so it's a secured...
So it's a secured form of borrowing, which means it's cheaper than getting out a personal loan, which is why a lot of people do it.
And it goes against the property, so they will come after the original mortgage that you took out to purchase your property.
Exactly. So the way that it would work, if you had a house and you had a first charge and a second charge mortgage, you stopped paying all your debts, your house gets repossessed.
Yeah.
The sale of that property will clear your debt with your first charge mortgage holder.
Yeah.
Any money that's left over will pay off your
charge.
second charge mortgage. Anything that's left over after that comes to you.
Got it. Oh, and the reason we called it the Tesla mortgage was because you were telling me one of the leading reasons people were getting second charges against their homes was to buy a Tesla, wasn't it?
Exactly that. So car finance interest rates as of 6 months ago were really high. I don't know where they're at now, but I had a student on a masterclass who said they had a spate of customers who wanted to buy Teslas, but the Tesla lending rates were really high. So instead of taking out Tesla car finance, they were getting second charge mortgages instead to buy their Teslas.
That's just wild. I mean, I'm sure I said the same thing when you told me the first time around, but that just seems absurd.
But what happens is when you reach the end of your fixed in period with your first charge mortgage, you remortgage and combine the two. So at that point, you just add in both of the debt. But actually, it's more financially sensible to do the second charge mortgage in the first instance.
Right.
Than to take out a car finance agreement with Tesla. Did it tell you what a backbook loan was?
No, we got distracted.
Okay, so
Full circle.
backbook loan is a second charge mortgage product that was entered into before the 21st of March 2016.
Right.
There's a couple of other bits that make it kind of important, but honestly, from an what do you need to know for the purposes of your exam perspective,
That's it.
a backbook loan is a second charge mortgage that you've entered into before the 21st of March 2016.
What happened on the 21st of March 2016?
The Mortgage Credit Directive happened on the 21st of March 2016.
Oh, okay.
You really forgot that date quick.
Yeah, I really did.
So that's first charge mortgages, second charge mortgages, the Mortgage Credit Directive boxed off. The next thing I'm going to talk about is sometimes it's called Islamic home finance.
Right.
I've called it that in the past. Apparently that is incorrect. It should be called a Sharia compliant mortgage. So I can only apologise for my lack of knowledge with that. To anybody who was personally offended by me calling it Islamic home finance, I'm sorry.
Is that not what the textbook refers to it as?
Turns out the textbook actually says it's sometimes incorrectly called Islamic home finance.
Right, okay, so the textbook is...
The textbook does call it both at different points.
Interchangeably.
Yeah, but what we want to be using is Sharia compliant mortgages.
Right, okay.
If you are Muslim, you can't take out a standard mortgage.
Due to religious reasons.
Yeah, because the payment of interest is banned. Because basically what's happening...
Seems fucking reasonable.
Right, because one person is benefiting from somebody else's financial lack or financial gap.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'm completely for that premise. It means that you can't get a mortgage the standard way if that's your faith.
Right.
So we have alternative finance options, and they are called Sharia compliant mortgages.
Cool.
There's two types. There's one called the Ijara method.
Yeah.
And there's one called the Murabaha method.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the easiest way to remember this, and every time I tell somebody, I feel smug about it. So the Ijara method, what happens is if you want to buy a property, you contact your finance provider.
Yep.
And you say, this is the house I want.
Yep.
The lender's going to buy the house.
Yep.
And you are going to pay them back every month, just like you would with a standard mortgage. But every month you pay part outstanding capital, so part your outstanding debt.
Yeah.
And part rent. They've basically replaced the word interest for rent. That's what they've done. You know how you're going to remember it, though? Have you ever seen the American sitcoms where you've got people that live together in an apartment, like Friends or The Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
And they used to have a rent jar by the front door, and they used to put cash in it. Have you put your rent in the jar?
Yeah.
Ijara mortgage.
Okay.
Rent
got
Jara
it.
mortgage.
Rent jar. Ijara mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's how you link the two.
Exactly. The other method is called the Murabaha method. And the difference with that is the bank is going to buy the house in the first instance.
Yep.
They are going to then add a surcharge on top of it, and you are only going to pay off capital. So let's say...
Okay, so they purchase it, they then work out what...
They immediately inflate the buy price for you.
Yeah, so you're just paying the inflated purchase price.
Yeah, so if you buy a house for £300,000, the bank will buy it for £300,000. You'll probably buy it off them for £400,000. So there's no interest payment, but you are still paying an inflated price.
So the bank isn't missing out.
Yeah, a couple of students have asked me before, is it actually financially beneficial to get a Sharia compliant mortgage? The answer is no, because they have a captive audience of people that can only take out that type of mortgage.
Right.
They can generally take advantage of that fact, and it's much higher cost-wise to buy a house that way than it is to buy a house with just Lloyds Bank.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. The other thing to keep in mind with Sharia compliant mortgages is when is stamp duty payable, because technically the bank buys the house,
Yeah.
and then you don't own the house until you buy it off the bank.
Yeah.
Works the same when we take out a mortgage. We don't own the house, the bank own it until we've paid off our debt. So it's the same. Stamp duty is payable once, which is when the bank buy it. It's the same with a standard mortgage, but that's quite a common exam question, and people fall over it because they go, oh shit, I don't know.
Right.
It's
so
exactly the same. Yeah.
The two are considered still mortgage products.
That's exactly it.
Cool.
And the last thing I'm going to talk about for this topic is the next thing that the textbook talks about is the Mortgage Conductor Business Sourcebook, what is in each chapter. And I'm not going to lie, when I've been building my courses, I've been kind of brushing past this, going, they're never going to ask you what is in chapter 13 of the Mortgage Conductor Business Sourcebook, until it turns out that's the exact question that they asked somebody. So for anybody at home that's listening, it is arrears in chapter 13, and I remember it as unlucky 13, and arrears means you've missed a payment, so you're in debt, so you're pretty unlucky.
Okay.
Please do refer back to the textbook. Please do have a look at the chapters. Chances are, if they've asked about topic 13, they're probably going to ask about other ones as well. So you do need to brush up on that. You do need to know what is in each chapter of the Mortgage Conductor Business Sourcebook. You can find it in chapter 3 of your CeMAP 2 and 3 textbook. And that's all that we've got time for this week.
Awesome. Once again, this is not a comprehensive study guide.
Correct.
Guys.
If guys didn't hear it in the back over there.
Sorry.
It is not a comprehensive.
Not comprehensive.
If you do want a comprehensive study guide, I can help you out with that. Go to futureinfinance.co.uk. There is so much free stuff that I offer. There's also a lot of chargeable stuff that I offer, but that's not the only route. I've got this podcast, I've got a YouTube channel, I've got an e-learning platform that you can access for free with over 12 hours worth of study material in there. I run what is effectively like a leveled up fast track course. I call it the masterclass. I also offer self-study options. Literally, there are so many options. There's not enough time on this podcast for me to tell you guys about all of them. All I need you to know that is if you have listened to this and you've liked it or it's helped in any way, please do send me a message. You guys send me messages all the time and it makes my week. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. I love you all, and we will catch you guys next week.
We will see you next week.